we're going to discuss the biggest mistakes again that all Muslims across cultures, across age, across their religious inclinations as well, they are committing when they're trying to heal and grow, and they're trying to correct their ways. Now, what I'm going to say might be controversial or it might be unclear, so please bear with me. I'm going to clarify it to you as I go along. So the biggest mistake that Muslims do, and I think it's the seventh mistake that Muslims do, is they don't understand that there are three Islams. So you know how researchers which are not Muslims, they sort of travel around the world. They say, oh, there's many Islams, and everyone does it their own way accordingly to this or the other. Well, no, actually, if you think about it, it comes down to three Islams. And we all being affected by them, we all need to balance it, we all need to find our way through it, and we don't even know that it is actually a case. So the three Islams that I'm talking about are actually three consciousness, three attitudes towards Islam. And I'm talking about your cultural Islam, sorry, your religious Islam and your global Islam, I'm sorry. So there must be something going on in this webinar, because I'm experiencing some issues here in my throat area. Okay, so inshallah is going to be a powerful one. So the cultural Islam is that Islam which you've been born into as a Muslim, or as a revert you coming into, meaning your family in law, or the country that you deciding to live in, and it's hopefully Islamic country that is their influence. So this cultural consciousness, Islamic consciousness, allows you to form cultural norms, practices, societal norms and influences that project on you idea of Islam, how to be a Muslim, and that is different to religious Islam as well as to global Islam. So at that level, we've been actually, as a Muslims, generally speaking, influenced by colonialism, whose first and predominant role was to deprive us of our Islamic, not Muslim, Islamic identity. So what we've been left with is with idea of a Muslim culture, and we are forgetting about Islamic culture. We forgot actually about Islamic culture. This is something of, that's what it was in olden age sort of attitude. So the cultural Islam is actually a residual, it's actually a leftover of colonialism. In some countries, colonialism is still going on, it's undercovered. In some countries, it's long forgotten. However, we're still experiencing Muslims not really connecting to Quran and Sunnah, but sort of relying on what their fathers, what their grandmothers did, and how they found themselves in difficult times. And that was really primarily fight and flight response, and it wasn't the case of them having a platform to grow. It wasn't a case for them having actually access to the sources of what healing could be based on Quran and based on Sunnah. So Quran talked to us about it as well. He said, and we in Surah 4, we are reminded, verse 135, don't follow anything other than Islam. And then we read, so follow not personal inclination, lest you not be just to yourself. So this cultural Islam is something that you've observed, something that you are influenced, and after this video, I hope you'll be more conscious about it. It's really important for us to be conscious about it, because not every culture will have exactly the same interpretation of Islam. Now, the second Islam that we are influenced by, the conscious Islam, is the religious Islam. And the religious Islam is either of your own choice. For instance, me as a convert, I've decided to educate myself in Islamic teachings, and I probably spent 6 years of studying Hadith, Aqidah, and so forth, and I'm still studying Quran. as in tafsir. So I have this this relationship with conscious religious Islam because I've decided so. However, not everyone will have such a calling in the personal development, and what they will find is a confusion, because we have many Muslims believing daily that you have to follow four madhabs, and those madhabs they came about at the time when there was no globalism, there was no communication, so people were sort of following scholars at that time, and at that time we had four major scholars, and those times are gone. Those scholars are no longer here with us, yet we have people who are still following and making divisions. This is a key word, divisions between one madhab and another madhab, and there's nothing wrong really about following madhab. However, there is a huge fault if you are looking down at other madhabs. Not only that, if you don't have inner calling to religious consciousness in Islam, you will also find that there are many ways of sectism, like Sufi, Salafi, and Shia, and how to make sense out of that. So that's why people who are looking from outside, who are not being inspired or brought up by Islam, they will say, yeah, there's many Islams, but it's not necessarily the truth. The religious Islam is something that should be in your hands. And if it's not, it leads us to something that Prophet ﷺ reminded us in Hadith, like he had premonition, he knew what was coming, meaning the visions. And he said, the believer in the mutual kindness and compassion and sympathy to themselves, they should be like one body, and we're not like one body. And then he continued, because he wanted for us to understand what that means, being one body. And he said that so when one of the limbs suffers, like if your finger hurts you, then the whole body responds to it with weakness and fever. And you can find this hadith in Muslim. And that's probably why we are suffering with confusion at the level of Islamic consciousness, religious Islamic consciousness. We suffer confusion as well at the level of cultural Islamic consciousness, which is a residual of oppression. But nowadays we're experiencing even deeper, global, stronger oppression at the level of global Islam, at last level of Islam. And this is influenced by hugely Islamophobia and racism that Muslims across the world today facing on different levels, 24/7, something that is not really broadcasted in the media, but something that if you are a Muslim, you feel deeply and you understand deeply. So the Quran reminds us about it. He says to us, that there is no place in it in Islam. So if you go to Surah 49 verse 13, O mankind, you had been created from a single pair of a male and female, and we made you into nations and tribes. For what? For what reason? So you might know each other. And verily, the most honored of you is the one who, in the sight of Allah, is the one who's most righteous, and Allah is full of knowledge and is acquainted with what you do. So those divisions, these racial divisions, class divisions, economic divisions, you name them, gender divisions, they are for us to learn about ourselves. They are for us here to grow more into consciousness and go closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because we're learning about ourselves through the difference, the diversity as well. However, that is not a platform nowadays where we as Muslims can grow, because global consciousness in Islam is again very depriving. It's all about dom, it's all about oppression, and we have to find ourselves. We have to find again a pride in ourselves, and the pride and a self-esteem and assertiveness is something that is deeply missing in Muslims who are trying to rebuild themselves, who are trying to develop themselves, because of those reasons. And again, we shouldn't be here because we should be prepared for it, but we're not. And the reason why I'm saying is because there's many hadith which says that at the end of the day we will be many, and it's true. There's we grow as a community, as a global community, as Muslims, but we will be weak. And in the wood you will find a hadith which says we will be many on those days. So like right now we can say there's many of us, but you will be like such as flowing down a torrent. Allah will remove your esteem from the chest of your enemies, and Allah will insert Iblis in your heart. And the reason for that is because and the love for this worldly life and the hatred for death, it will be predominant in us. So it's like we are so influenced by those three different levels of Islam that we don't even know how deeply our psychology has been influenced and how our mental health responded to that. And it responded with low self-esteem, anxieties, feeling of isolation, and feeling of lack of belongingness, sectarism, and you name it. You know, those religious conflicts at those three levels, they can cause many issues in any person who is trying to grow, and they actually do. This is what I observe. This is what many other therapists observe in the clinics. So I hope that is useful. If you're looking for solutions, if you can hear and you can find yourself in this in those mistakes, if you feel that you're repeating those mistakes, you can book a free consultation with me and find out how to resolve it on individual basis. Just go to my website, ajstherapy.com. Don't forget to subscribe to YouTube videos, because I have more Sadaqah Jariyah videos like this, inshallah, and I'll be honored if you could share them and if you could benefit from them. And the YouTube channel is called AJS Therapy. Now, I'm going to say goodbye to you, but we'll see you, but I hope to see you soon, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.